a Florida school has banned 4 books from elementary students after one white woman objected to the titles and argued that they were inappropriate. One of them was a collection of poems by our dear sister who we love, poet Amanda Gorman, that includes her noteworthy inauguration poem, The Hill We Climb, citing concerns, they say, over indoctrination and critical race theory. Now, with her books, the school is saying we didn't ban it, but what we're doing is we're taking it out of the elementary school and putting it into middle schools. And if an elementary student wants to read it or check it out, they have to go to a media specialist and prove that they can read on a middle school level. Look, I just had to bring on the one person I know who's been talking about the banning of books and this nonsense about CRT and white supremacy, and that is my dear sis, Dr. Julianne Malveuax, who is an economist, author, and dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at Cal State. Dr. Malveaux.
Hey, it's getting crazy out here. It is 22 states to date. 22 states have passed legislation to ban the teaching of critical race theory. Now, no one teaches critical race theory at K-12. What they really mean is they want to ban the teaching of race. In Oklahoma, they don't want anyone to teach anything that makes people feel uncomfortable. Well, hell, life is uncomfortable. In Oklahoma, where rabid white people burned down Black Wall Street, they don't want young people to know about that. We can go state to state to state. Texas is the worst offender. Florida is number 2. 1,600 books or more. Last time I checked, it was 1,600. I check this every week, but I didn't check last week. So it could be more. 1,600 have been banned. Toni Morrison, Alice Walker have been banned. Anything that says gay in it has been banned. What is this about? This is what it's about: truth denial. There are gay people in these United States. There are Black people in these United States. Our history is uncomfortable. Guess what? It's our history. And unless you grapple with it, what you're doing is you're running away from it. And as long as you run away from it, you get January 6th of 2021. You get crazy white people. And I'm cleaning it up because I know I'm American Urban Radio and I love y'all. So I won't go all the way Malveaux. But crazy white people who decide, one crazy woman decides that one. What if one Black woman said, I don't want to teach Thomas Jefferson because he was a rapist South? What if that happened? You know, then would they pay attention to that? I don't think so. Well, we have
they fire her for telling the truth about this country. If you had someone of Native American descent, if they got up and they started teaching on what really happened, would they be scared, or what would happen?
It's very interesting, Ebony. I am in California. I spent the last 25 years in D.C. In California, they do land acknowledgments. So at every event, they will read the land. We are on the land of this Indian or that Indian tribe. What cracks me up about it, I said it yesterday and I got in trouble, but I'm always in trouble. I said, I don't want land acknowledgement. I want land back. In the separations, I want land back. How you gonna say, oh, are we on their land? So what you gonna do about it? And so, all these fake apologies mean nothing, but this woman needs to be checked, simply checked, but also these school systems that will allow one parent, just one, to stop the educational process. And Amanda Gorman is such a lovely, wonderful, incandescent young sister. I mean, when we all saw her, it took our breath away. When you go and read the poem, it's talking about the hill that we climb, the struggles that we have, the work we have to do. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that there are those who don't want to own the work. We're not saying we hate America. We're saying we want America to be America. That's what Langston Hughes said. Let America be America. which means let it own the promise that it offered, not the dream denied or deferred, but the dream realized. And it has not been realized. It's been deferred. It's been denied. The denial has been that people don't want to talk about reality. In Oklahoma, how can you burn down Black Wall Street and say you can't teach race? In Florida, where we know that Rosewood was, again, a violation of how did Florida fix Rosewood? They offered descendants scholarships to the University of Florida, where now faculty members are being told they cannot use the words diversity, equity, or inclusion in their classrooms. How do you do that? And we can go all over the country and talk about the denial, the rape, the disregard of Black people. There's a man in, I'm trying to think of the state, I think it was South Carolina, Anthony Crawford. He had, according to the land records, 425 acres of good cotton land. White people did not like that. Anthony Crawford went to sell some cottonseed at the general store. A white man was offered 5 cents a pound more for the cottonseed than he was offered. He said, I would rather throw my damn cottonseed in the river than accept this. Well, here's what happened. There was a law that said you could not curse a white person. So before he even walked out the store, he was arrested. But this brother was wealthy. So he reached in his pocket and pulled out the bail, pulled out the little $15. Of course, this was 1916, so $15 was a lot of money, but still he had it in his pocket. Before he got home, they had pulled him up and lynched him. Not only did they lynch him, Ebony, they allowed the white men who were his economic competitors to become the executors of his estate. Then they threw his family off the land, gave them 30 days to leave. This is economic envy, economic lynching, a story that white people do not want to have told. I won't say white people, because some white people want to hear the truth. What I would say is that it is the people who are history deniers. That's what I'm tired of the term white supremacist. I'll tell you why. Because when you say white supremacy, you're giving them something. They're not supreme. They're not supremacists. I call them white delusionists. They're not supreme. These are inferior slugs whose only claim to dominance is a structure of racism. If they had to toe-to-toe and compete with Black people, they couldn't do it. And that's why we have what we have. And so this young sister, with all of her incandescence, with her brilliance, with her way of making us all of us looked at her and smiled.
Yeah.
At the hill we climb. The hill we climb is a hill of racism. It's a hill of oppression. And it's not only racism, predatory capitalism oppresses white people too. It oppresses everyone. When you look at what's going on with the debt ceiling, what do you see? You see people say, we will give the military, who already has 62% of the budget, we want to give them more. But hungry people, we want to give them less. Medically needy people want to give them less. And that's not targeted at Black people. It's targeted at all people. All people. So when we look at that, what we have to say is, this sister is saying the hill we climb is a hill to get us to equality, to get us to decency, and to take it out, to say that a 6th grader can't read this book, or a 4th grader can't read this book, when and
if they do, they have to prove that they can read on a middle school level. It took me back to literacy tests for voting. I couldn't. I was like, the demonic audacity.
Demonic audacity is a good way to put it. And let's just be very clear and very real about what we're dealing with. We're dealing with historical denial. People don't want to know the truth. And so in Florida, I think is a harbinger for what we are going to see in other states. because 22 states have already done this. We don't want critical race theory. So
they're testing ground. They really are.
But 22 states is almost half, which means that people in Kentucky, in Iowa, in Arkansas, will never know the truth. So these are going to be young people who are being spat out into the world, spat out with their biases and their ignorance because they never knew.
Dr. Malveaux, this is something that I've been thinking about because I'm raising a 9-year-old, and I'm like, what type of education do I want for her that she'll be able to compete when she enters into the workforce? But I do not want her not knowing who she is. So while we teach her at home who she is, and we read history to her, I want her to be in a class where she learns that. We literally are looking at African-based schools for her. But what this society that is being raised, just like you said before, they are being sent out. Look, my generation was honestly sent out ignorantly. We didn't learn half the stuff that we should have learned. And it wasn't until college that many people's eyes were open. But now we're seeing even the stripping away inside of colleges. And because of that stripping away, we're going to see money. We see what's happened in Florida. DeSantis trying to defund colleges that have anything to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm like, this tunnel that we are rapidly going down in our education, it is very scary.
It is scary.
For at home, like how should we begin to rethink education in our homes, especially Black folk?
Well, first of all, we have to go back to our Saturday schools. In the 70s, when I was coming up, we had Saturday schools. We didn't trust the typical educational hierarchy to teach us what we need to know. So our churches and other people did Saturday schools. So I would encourage you and your partner and your daughter to be part of a Saturday school where some of our history is learned. Secondly, we all have to be educationally proficient. You said something that caught my attention about you want her to be able to compete. So it's technology. It's critical thinking. It is math skills. How do you get that? You look for the best school you can find and can afford, and find like-minded parents who are willing to transform the school. A lot of parents, and it's unfortunate, many parents are so overburdened. Many have 2 jobs. Many are receiving government assistance and have challenges there. But you have to find like-minded parents to create a learning environment that reflects your values. And if you can't find it, create it. There's a whole movement of private schools, charter schools. I believe in public education, but I believe in involved parents who can transform public education. And if not, I believe that there are other ways to make sure your child is fully educated. Immerse yourself, my sister, in what the metrics are for passing SATs, ACTs. What are the metrics? And to make sure your daughter is exposed to them. Being a parent is not a casual thing. Okay, I just had a kid. Being a parent is an active, impactful, and time-intensive possibility. So, I'm really working on some things around that here at Cal State LA. We're teaching K through 12 teachers how to teach around ethnic studies and diversity. Wow. And they've asked me to do some work, which I'm going to do because I have to, around how we do a manual for parents. How we teach parents how to teach their children what they need to know. How a young man or woman should respond to the N-word. How a young Latino should respond to those words that are used to denigrate them.
It is. We're not, as we see these, it's not like we are surprised, but it is shocking and triggering. I'll say this every time. Amanda Gorman, what she said, and I'm going to read a little bit about before we end what she said. She said, "I'm gutted."
Yes.
That was the first one.
We cannot allow this young Black woman with her amazing self to be gutted. But the fact is that time and time again, we've all been gutted. I got put out of school for slapping a white girl who called me the N-word. Well, I'm always in trouble. It's just my story. But the girl called me an N-word. I just went, and they sent me home. And my mother said, "What'd you do?" I said, "Well, I slapped the heifer." And she said, "Well, do you think you should have done that?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And that was the end of that.
Not yes, ma'am. Like, who to respect.
Exactly. I was like, "Yes, ma'am." I told her, I said, I couldn't help it. My arm socket separated itself from my arm. And that would have ended that. But some people have been given permission to disrespect, and we can never give anyone permission to disrespect us. When you get very young people who are racially ignorant, that means they grew up in a racially ignorant house. And now, if you're my age, I was a class of 74 in college. If you're my age, you might say, maybe that's okay. But if they're your age, you were not class of 74. How did they learn this bull stuff? They learned it because their parents taught it, because they use it at home. And that has to stop. And the only way we stop it is first of all, we undergird our young people. No, you will not accept that. No. We go to our school boards and say, no, these teachers are racist. No. We go to the Secretary of Education and say, schools who do this bull, no, they should not get federal funding. If you are going to teach racism, teach it on your own time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Or else we'll have more students, like I can't remember what state it was, the young boy, they had video of him getting on the bus, and for the day they were covering history and people they admired, he showed up in a Klan out.
Trying to be Nathan Forrest, who was the president of the Klan, and they let him on the bus.
Let him on the bus.
The outrage, they let him on the bus. He should have been left by the side of the road. But somehow that was supposed to be okay. I mean, all of a sudden, in the name of free speech, racism is okay. And so people are behaving unacceptably, but we still have not reconciled the race issues that came up after the end of enslavement. Yeah. Remember, it was only about a 12-year period post the end of enslavement and the end of Reconstruction. It was about a 12-year period.
That was quick. They were like, no.
And then they came on back. We have Black people in Congress in the 1870s, 80s. George White, who was the last Black person in Congress, said the phoenix will still rise. But he also detailed all that we had done in a very short period of time. We owned more land in 1900 than we own today. And that's about the deliberate stealing of our property. The deliberate stealing of our property. And so we have to think about that contextually and say, banning Amanda Gorman is equivalent to stealing our land. She is our land. She is our sister. She is our brilliance. And to say that her poem, her very inspirational poem, made a complaint. That makes no sense to me.
It does not. And we must do, like you are saying, and what she tweeted out, we must continue to lift up our voices, be bold, and speak out.